The average American household is worth $1.06 million. The median American household is worth $193,000. Both numbers come from the same federal survey, the same year, the same country. One of them makes America a nation of millionaires. The other one is the truth. Welcome back to New Wealth. The last two episodes, we reverse-engineered a $5 billion creator empire and the most expensive balance sheet on Earth. Today, we put the corporations away and run the numbers on you. By the end of this video, you'll know the real net worth benchmarks for every age bracket, the exact lines between poor, middle class, and rich in 2026, and one ratio at the end that matters more than every dollar figure in this episode. No hype, no rented Lamborghinis. Just the federal data most finance channels won't put on screen. Worth saving, these benchmarks don't move again until the Fed's next survey. First, the two numbers, because the gap between them is the entire story. The data comes from the Survey of Consumer Finances, the Federal Reserve's deep audit of American household wealth, run every 3 years. It is the closest thing to ground truth that exists on this subject. Net worth, by the way, means everything you own: house, retirement accounts, cash, the car, minus everything you owe. One number per household. The average of that number across the country is about $1.06 million. But the average is a terrible witness. It gets dragged upward by a very small number of very large fortunes. Put one billionaire in a room with 1,000 nurses, and on average, every single person in that room is a millionaire. Nothing about the nurses changed. The median ignores the billionaire. It lines up every household from poorest to richest and reads the one in the middle, about $192,000. Half the country is below it. That is the honest center of American wealth, roughly 1/5 of the average. And the distance between those two numbers is not a statistical quirk. The top 10% of households own roughly 3/4 of all household wealth in America. The average describes them. The median describes you, me, and almost everyone we know, which is why most people have no idea where they actually stand. They've been benchmarking against a number that was never about them. So let's fix that, bracket by bracket, age by age, where the lines actually sit. Start with the medians by age, the honest middle of each bracket. Under $35,000, $39,000. That's it. Half of young American households are worth less than a decent used truck. Student debt does a lot of that arithmetic. 35 to 44, about $136,000. This is where home equity and retirement accounts start showing up. 45 to 54, about $247,000. 55 to 64, $364,000. Peak earning years, kids leaving, mortgages dying. 65 to 74, about $410,000, the peak of the entire curve. Past 75, it gently declines to around $336,000, as retirement does what retirement is for, spending it. Now hold that curve in your head and notice something. The median American household peaks at about $410,000, not $1 million. The typical American never becomes a millionaire, at any age. Meanwhile, the averages for those same brackets run 4 to 5 times higher in every single bracket. In the 50-something bracket, the average is over $1.3 million, while the median sits under $400,000. Same country, same age, different universe. So where are the class lines? The cleanest way to draw them is in quarters. The bottom quarter of American households, under $27,000. That is the line where one broken transmission is a crisis. The data's definition of financially poor is not zero, it's no cushion. The middle half of the country, the statistical middle class, runs from $27,000 up to about $658,000. Notice how wide that band is. A school teacher with a paid-down house and a healthy 401k and a family living paycheck to paycheck are both middle class by the arithmetic. From $658,000 to roughly $1.9 million. The upper middle, the top quarter of the country, but not yet the top 10%. Dentists, dual-income engineers, small business owners. The diligent and the boring. One more thing about the shape of it. For the median household, most of that number is the house. Home equity is the American middle class's entire balance sheet. The stock market belongs overwhelmingly to the top 10%. And if your reaction to all of these numbers is that they feel low, that's the point. Your feed is not a sample. The data is. Now the top of the ladder, what rich actually costs in 2026. Top 10%, about $1.9 million in the Fed's numbers, call it $2.2 million in today's dollars once you adjust for inflation. One household in 10 clears it. Top 5%, about $3.8 million. And the top 1%, the number everyone argues about, sits somewhere between 11.6 and 13.7 million, depending on the estimate. Read that again. A household worth $1 million needs to roughly 13x its wealth to reach the 1%. The millionaire next door is not the 1%. He's barely knocking on the top 10. Now compare the data to perception. Charles Schwab surveys Americans every year on what wealthy means. The 2025 answer, $2.3 million, remarkably close to that top 10% line. The crowd, it turns out, is decently calibrated. Financially comfortable came in at 839,000. But the generational split is the tell. Gen Z says comfortable at 329,000. Boomers say 943,000, nearly 3 times higher. Comfort apparently inflates with age. And here is the distinction the survey buries. Rich and wealthy are not synonyms. Rich is a flow, income, spending, the visible stuff. Wealthy is a stock, assets that keep you free whether or not you show up on Monday. A surgeon making $700,000 a year with a burn rate to match is rich. A retired plumber with $2 million in index funds and no debts is wealthy. The feed celebrates the first one, the data respects the second. Hold that, because it's the setup for the only 3 things worth doing with this information. 3 lessons at normal human scale. Lesson 1, benchmark against the median in your own age bracket, and nothing else. The average is a story about other people. If you're 32 with 60,000 to your name, the internet says you're behind. The data says you're ahead of most of the room. Wrong benchmarks don't just misinform you, they change your behavior. People who believe they're hopelessly behind stop doing the boring things that work. Run your number against your bracket's median once a year, same week every year, and ignore every net worth video that opens with a Lamborghini. Lesson 2. The gap between the median and the average is not an injustice statistic, it's a map. The average runs away from the median for one mechanical reason. Assets compound and paychecks don't. Every bracket where the gap widens is a bracket where ownership pulled away from labor, which means the entire game, the whole thing, is getting something onto the asset side of your ledger as early as possible. Index funds, home equity, a business. Anything that grows while you sleep. The 75th percentile, 658,000, is not built on genius. It is built on boring ownership plus 20 years. Lesson 3. Once you clear the basics, stop measuring wealth in dollars and start measuring it in time. Take your net worth. Divide it by what you actually spend in a year. That number is how many years of your life you own outright. Call it your autonomy ratio. 200,000 saved on a 40,000 a year life is 5 years of freedom. $1 million on a 300,000 a year life is barely 3. By the only definition that matters, the first person is richer. Rich is a number. Wealthy is a duration. So, the future. The Fed is in the field right now. The next survey of consumer finances drops late this year, and every threshold in this episode will move. Probably up. Asset prices have been kind to people who own things, which is precisely the mechanism this whole episode is about. The lines will shift, the ladder won't. Your question for the comments, and be honest, because the answers are the data. Does 2.3 million make you wealthy where you live? Yes or no, and name the city. I suspect the map of answers will be the most interesting chart this channel never made. Save this one. These benchmarks are your measuring stick until the Fed's next survey, and you'll want the autonomy ratio the next time someone on the internet tells you you're behind. Next episode, we climb the ladder itself, the 6 levels of wealth, and how money behaves differently at every single one. The difference between level 3 and level 4 surprised me. Subscribe so it finds you.